morning everyone, and I am Miss Maria EPMA Aguilon, and I will be the one to report the first part of Confessional Poetry. So I hope you will listen and will learn some valuable lesson from our discussion. So how are you today? And to answer that question, kindly drop the emoji that represents your feelings or emotions this morning in our in-call messages, which will also serve as our attendance. So make sure to drop the emojis in our chat box. And in order for me to know if you are really listening attentively throughout my presentation, I would ask some questions related to my topic in between my discussion. Okay, so listen and answer because it will be recorded as well. And to formally start our discussion, I would like to first present the lesson objectives. Okay, so the confessional poetry began as one of many artistic movements in post-war 20th century America. And when we say post-war 20th century America, it is also called as Cold War era. So Cold War era is where the soldiers of the Soviet Union and the United States did not battle directly during the Cold War, but the two superpowers continually to antagonize each other through political maneuvering, military coalitions, espionage, propaganda, armed build-ups, economic aid, and proxy wars between other nations. And for our question number 1, okay, listen. Post-war 20th century America is also called as A. Bloody War era, B. Fire War era, C. Cold War era, or D. Death War era. So, type your answers in the comment box in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, okay, back on track. So, Cold War era explains why confessional poetry's most fundamental aspect is blatant autobiographical content, which often manifests as self-deprecation. And when we say autobiographical content, it is a self-written life story or the story of the author. Remember that, okay? However, confessional poetry involves self-deprecation, which is the act of reprimanding oneself by belittling, undervaluing, disparaging oneself, or being excessively modest. Okay, and for our question number 2, listen. It is the act of reprimanding oneself by belittling, undervaluing, disparaging oneself, or being excessively modest. So, letter A, self-depression. Letter B, self-deprecation. Letter C, self-blaming. Or letter D, self-hating. So, type your answers in the comment box. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, okay, back on track. Why is that? Let us look for more interesting facts. Confessional poetry has been described as the poetry of the personal or I, focusing on extreme moments of individual experience, the psyche, and personal trauma, including previously and occasionally still taboo matters such as mental illness, sexuality, and suicide, often set in relation to broader social and familial themes. And this involves the disclosure of personal revelations and secrets through non-fiction forms such as diaries and memoirs. So, okay, for our question number 3, confessional poetry has been described as the poetry of the blank. Okay, is it A, poet, B, symbolism, C, personal, or D, colloquial? So, okay, type your answers in the comment box in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And here we go. We have another question. Okay, so for our question number 4, confessional poetry can be in form of the following except A, autobiography, B, diaries, C, memoirs, or D, epic. So type your answers again in our comment box. Okay, so let's move on to the emotional authenticity of professional poet. So, when we say emotional authenticity, it is about an authentic or genuine emotion that is sincere and spontaneous response to the eliciting situation, which is based on personal experiences and real-life situations, providing negative feelings such as fear, rage, despair, and impotence. The attention and artistic value normally reserved for positive emotions. So another fact is confessional poets wrote in direct, colloquial speech rhythm and used images that reflected intense psychological experience, often culled from childhood or battles with mental illness or breakdown. Okay, can you imagine? Unlike other poets in other genre who uses more figurative language and deep words in their writing, confessional poets uses colloquial speech. And of course, when we say colloquial speech, it is in form of informal manner or a speech used in everyday conversation. Okay, they tend to utilize sequences, emphasizing connections between poems. So, they grounded their work in actual events, referred to real persons, and refused any metaphorical transformation of intimate details into universal symbols. And for our question number 5, our last question. Okay, listen. Confessional poets wrote in blank. Is it A, colloquial speech, B, figurative language, C, metaphorical speech, or D, symbolic language? So, type your answers in the comment box. And before I end my presentation, I would like to give a remarkable statement about confessional poetry. So this is the statement. Where sonnets are often associated with love and epics ultimately celebrate strength, confessional poetry exposes and intimately handles private human pains. So, I want you to reflect on that remarkable statement about the difference of other kinds of writing like sonnet and epic. And that wraps up my discussion for today. And before I end, I would like to get this opportunity to present you my short evaluation that will determine your knowledge or your learning about my discussion. So, since I cannot call you one by one, I would just like to include these questions on my quiz later. Okay, so here is the 2 questions. So, number 1 is, what is the difference of confessional poetry and other kind of writings? Or simply, what made the confessional poetry unique? And number 2, how do you think writing confessional poetry affect the writer's well-being? And with that, I would like to give the floor to Miss Mendoza. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And I hope that you really learned something from me today.